G'day Guardians, Roguey here, and like you, I have been enjoying the heck out of all the new changes that have come with Void 3.0. But I'm going to be honest with you, when I first read what was new in the Titans arsenal, I wasn't that excited. It didn't really fill my head with new ideas or builds compared to Warlock's Child of the Old God and Hunter's new and improved stylish Executioner. But I was determined to find something I enjoyed about the Titans' new kit. Then, as I was playing a few games of Crucible Control to get my pinnacle, it struck me. Literally, I was smacked in the head by a flying void disc thrown by a mighty Titan. Of course, Titans got themselves a brand new melee ability, so I set out to put together a Titan build focused on throwing shields. But before we jump into the build itself, we are giving away 2 Follow The Light Emblems, provided to us by the fine folk at Destiny ANZ. To enter this giveaway, just leave a comment below telling us which class has been your favourite since the Void 3.0 changes. We'll be announcing the winners in a week's time. Let's start off by covering which aspects and fragments we'll be using. My original vision for this build was constantly applying volatile on each shield and grenade throw, making use of controlled demolition. Any volatile explosions further spreading its volatility, but quickly found out that it wasn't impactful as its description made it sound. So, after rigorous testing, I switched off controlled demolition for Bastion. This was due to a few reasons that we'll go into more detail a bit later. But Bastion gives our fire team an overshield when casting Barricade. This overshield can regenerate as long as we are in proximity of our barricade. Now, it's not the most flashy aspect, but a powerful one nonetheless. The second aspect we'll be using is Offensive Bulwark. While we have an overshield, grenades recharge significantly quicker, our melee travels further, and does increase damage. Lucky for us, getting an overshield has never been easier thanks to the Bastion aspect. Every time we are casting our barricade, not only are we getting a massive surge of survivability, but we are also enhancing our other abilities. Such a great synergy between these two aspects, and already we are seeing our first mention of a melee buff. On to our fragments, the building blocks of any Void build. We're a touch limited here due to Bastion only providing us with 1 fragment slot, so we are capped at 3. Since our overarching goal is to throw our shield as much as possible, our first fragment choice is an easy one. Echo of Provision, giving us melee energy when we damage enemies with our grenades. Since we have an increased grenade recharge rate from Offensive Bulwark, we can easily feed our melee energy anytime we throw a nade into a cluster of enemies. Now, since our melee recharge rate is tied to our grenade damage output, wouldn't it be great if we could return the favour and get energy for our grenade back on melee kill? Well, thanks to Echo of Exchange, we can. A simple fragment that gives us some grenade energy back on melee final blows. Onto our final fragment slot. I've been swapping back and forth between Echo of Expulsion, giving any of our Void ability kills an explosive effect, and Echo of Leeching, which gives our fire team an instant regen upon a melee final blows. One of the reasons that Echo of Leeching stands out to me, besides the obvious melee synergy, is that the overshield provided to us by Bastion has its own HP pool, independent of our normal shield. This means if we are under heavy fire and have taken lots of damage resulting in our overshield breaking, we would still be at a low overall HP. Now, with Echo of Leeching, we can pop up our overshield, go for a melee kill, ensuring that if our overshield should fall, we have been fully regenerated our HP underneath. But avoid ability explosions is just so much fun. With our Void aspects and fragments out of the way, let's talk exotic armor. Since this build revolves around the constant use of our abilities, there is one exotic that stands head and shoulders above the rest: the Heart of Inmost Light. A staple amongst many Titan builds. The Heart of Inmost Light is an abilities-focused exotic that when casting one of our 3 abilities, the other 2 receive a buff to their regen speed and damage. We want to start our rotation with Barricade, as this will give us an overshield and buff our next ability with increased damage and regen. I like to use my Grenade second to make use of the increased grenade regeneration granted to us from Offensive Bulwark and Heart of Inmost Light. And finally, our melee, receiving 2 damage buffs, one from Offensive Bulwark and the other from 2 stacks of Heart of Inmost Light, the most powerful Void Shield ever created, ripping through the air, annihilating any foes in its way. I am honestly blown away by the number of synergies we can create just from the aspects and fragments introduced in Void 3.0. It already feels like a complete build, so all the mods that we're adding here are just to further increase our melee uptime. It is times like this though, I do wish it was a little bit easier to generate arc wells, with the only one being getting a finisher generating you 2 arc wells, because I'd love to make use of Well of Ions. When picking up an arc well, our next melee does increase damage, but it's just too difficult to generate them when you're running a Void class. Well, let's go ahead and check out the mods we are running in this Void build. In our helmet, we are running 2 copies of the solar mod Ashes to Assets, giving us super energy on grenade kills. A natural choice, considering the amount of grenades we can throw out with this build. We also have the 1-cost melee Wellmaker, courtesy of the seasonal artifact. This gives us a reliable way to generate Void Wells, used for both ability energy and becoming charged with light. As for arms, I like to use 1 copy of Momentum Transfer, a 3-cost arc mod that gives us melee energy from grenade damage, 1 slot free for my champion mod, and finally Elemental Charge, giving us 2 stacks of charge with light upon picking up a Void Well. In our chest piece, I like to swap between Elemental Ordnance as another source of Void Wells, and my current favourite mod in the game, Volatile Flow, giving any of our Void-based weapons volatile rounds, turning them into the most powerful gun in the game. I also like running my chest piece as the Void Affinity. This allows me to run both the Thermoshock Plating and Void Resistance mods. Down in legs, I usually place my most expensive mod. In this case, it's Supercharged, giving us the ability to stack up to 4 charges of Charge with Light. Now, how are we spending all these stacks of Charge with Light, you may ask? Our good friend Heavy Handed, the 7-cost arc mod that refunds half of our melee energy while consuming 1 stack of Charge with Light. This is the backbone of our build, a surefire way to guarantee that we have melee energy no matter the circumstances. This is the perfect build for grinding through some Wellsprings or Psyops battlegrounds where you really want to practice your discus and take out waves of Hive in the process. Now that all the pieces are in place, let's take a deeper dive into how this build plays out. You'll want to start each encounter by throwing down your Barricade to proc the Overshield and Offensive Bulwark. From here on, follow up with an Empowered Grenade, potentially granting us a Void Well, allowing us to become charged with light. Now that we have the 2 stacks of Heart of Inmost Light, and we are charged with light, we can throw out our shield at a massively increased regeneration rate. After this first rotation, we often find ourselves continuously cycling through all of our abilities, rarely even finding the time to shoot our weapon. There are times when I wish the shield bounced with a little bit more consistency, maybe similar to a hunter's Withering Blade, where once hitting its first target, it ricochets onto any remaining nearby. The shield just kinda yeets itself in the direction that you threw it, or maybe I'm still just learning its bounce pattern. If you want to take that melee regen to the next level though, just introduce a couple of shots from Monte Carlo and you'll never run out of throwable shields. I'm sure that we've only just scratched the surface of what builds are possible in Void 3.0, and I couldn't be more excited for what's to come for Arc and Solar. I'll see you next time, Guardians.